Zilla Fatu unleashes explosive warning to Aulio, "You'll pay for what you did to my blood." The WWE Universe is in absolute shock tonight, and what I'm about to show you will send chills down your spine. We're witnessing the birth of what could be the most personal, most brutal feud in Bloodline history. But here's what most people don't realize. This isn't just about championship gold or family pride. This is about something much deeper, something that goes to the very core of Samoan warrior culture. Picture this. You're watching Night of Champions, expecting another typical championship match. The crowd is electric. Jacob Fatu is defending his title with the heart of a true warrior. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, a figure emerges from the shadows, someone who was supposed to be family, someone who was supposed to have Jacob's back. Instead, Aulio delivers the ultimate betrayal, helping Solo Sikoa and Jeff Cobb orchestrate one of the most shocking beatdowns in recent WWE history. But that's not even the most shocking part. What happened next will change everything you think you know about the Bloodline saga. For weeks, we've been waiting for a response. The WWE Universe has been asking the same question: where is Zilla Fatu? How will he respond to this attack on his blood? Well, the wait is over, and his response is more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. I've been covering WWE for years, and I've seen family feuds before. I've witnessed betrayals that shocked the wrestling world. But what Zilla Fatu just unleashed goes beyond anything we've seen in the modern era. This isn't just a wrestler cutting a promo. This is a man declaring war on someone who violated the most sacred code in Samoan culture. You never, ever turn on your family. Here's what makes this situation so explosive. Aulio didn't just attack Jacob Fatu in a wrestling match. He didn't just cost him a championship. He looked Jacob in the eyes, his own blood, and chose to stand with outsiders against his own family. In Samoan culture, this isn't just betrayal, it's the ultimate dishonor. And now, Zilla Fatu is about to make him pay for it in ways that will redefine what we think we know about family warfare in WWE. What I'm about to show you isn't just another wrestling storyline. This is a blood feud that's been brewing beneath the surface, and it's about to explode in ways that will reshape the entire landscape of WWE. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this feud could be the most personal, most brutal conflict we've ever witnessed in sports entertainment. And trust me, what Zilla said in that mysterious video will haunt Aulio for the rest of his career. The moment that changed everything happened during Monday Night Raw, and if you blinked, you might have missed the most chilling declaration of war in WWE history. The arena was buzzing with typical Raw energy when suddenly, the lights dimmed. The crowd fell silent. And then, emerging from the shadows like a specter of vengeance, Zilla Fatu appeared on the Titantron. But this wasn't the Zilla Fatu we've seen before. Gone was any trace of the composed, respectful family member. Standing alone in what appeared to be a dimly lit warehouse, his eyes burned with a fury that seemed to pierce through the screen itself. The camera work was deliberately unsettling, close-ups of his clenched fists, the tension in his jaw, the way shadows danced across his face as he prepared to deliver a message that would send shockwaves through the entire WWE Universe. Aulio, he began, his voice low and menacing, each word dripping with controlled rage. You laid hands on my blood. Now I return the favor. The pause that followed was deafening. You could feel the weight of those words settling over the arena like a dark cloud. But he wasn't finished. When I am done with you, you will wish you never came back to WWE. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just the words, it was everything surrounding them. The production team understood they were capturing something special. The lighting created an almost supernatural atmosphere, making Zilla appear less like a wrestler and more like an avenging spirit. His delivery was perfect, controlled enough to show he wasn't acting out of blind rage, but intense enough to make everyone believe he meant every single word. Here's what most people missed about this declaration. Zilla didn't just threaten Aulio. He made a promise. In Samoan culture, When a warrior makes a declaration like this, it's not just words, it's a sacred vow. He's not just saying he's going to fight Aulio, he's promising to restore the honor that was stolen from his family. This is bigger than wrestling. This is about cultural identity, family legacy, and the ancient codes that govern Samoan warrior society. The genius of this segment was in its restraint. Zilla didn't need to scream or throw furniture around. He didn't need elaborate props or dramatic music. The power came from his presence, his conviction, and the weight of his words. Every wrestling fan watching knew they had just witnessed something special, a moment that would be replayed and analyzed for years to come. But here's the most terrifying part. This was just the beginning. That declaration wasn't the end of Zilla's message to Aulio. It was the opening statement in what promises to be the most personal, most brutal feud in modern WWE history. And based on what happened next, Aulio is starting to realize he may have awakened something he can't control. The impact of Zilla Fatu's declaration was immediate and devastating. As soon as that mysterious video package ended, WWE cameras quickly cut to backstage footage that revealed just how deeply those words had penetrated their target. What we witnessed next was a masterclass in psychological warfare, and it proved that Zilla's message had hit its mark with surgical precision. There was Aulio, the same man who had stood confidently alongside Solo Sikoa just weeks earlier, now visibly shaken. The cocky facade that had defined his recent WWE appearances was completely gone, replaced by something we rarely see in professional wrestling: genuine concern. His hands were trembling slightly as he paced back and forth in the backstage area, running his fingers through his hair in a gesture that screamed anxiety. This wasn't acting. This was a man who suddenly realized he might have bitten off more than he could chew. The camera work here was brilliant, capturing every micro-expression, every nervous glance. You could see Aulio's mind racing, probably replaying every moment of that Night of Champions attack, wondering if he had made a catastrophic mistake. The confident warrior who had helped orchestrate Jacob Fatu's beatdown was nowhere to be found. In his place stood someone who looked like he was questioning every decision that had led him to this moment. But the ripple effects extended far beyond just Aulio. Solo Sikoa and JC Mateo, who had been standing nearby, exchanged tense glances that spoke volumes. These weren't just casual looks between allies. These were the kind of worried expressions you see when people realize they might be in over their heads. Solo, who has positioned himself as a leader within the Bloodline faction, suddenly looked like someone who was questioning whether he had the firepower to handle what was coming. The body language told the entire story. JC Mateo kept looking over his shoulder, as if expecting Zilla to materialize from the shadows at any moment. Solo's usual confident posture was replaced by a more defensive stance, his arms crossed, his jaw tight. These men had helped orchestrate what they thought was a strategic victory, but Zilla's response had transformed their triumph into something that felt dangerously like a Pyrrhic victory. What made this segment so effective was its authenticity. In an era where wrestling fans are incredibly sophisticated and can spot manufactured drama from a mile away, this felt real. The fear in Aulio's eyes wasn't the exaggerated terror of a soap opera. It was the genuine concern of someone who had just realized they might have awakened a sleeping giant. The genius of WWE's production team was evident in how they captured these moments. No dramatic music, no over-the-top camera angles, just raw, unfiltered reactions that made the audience feel like they were witnessing something genuine. This wasn't just good television. It was psychological storytelling at its finest, setting the stage for a confrontation that promises to be unlike anything we've seen in recent memory. Just when the tension in the arena had reached its peak, just when the WWE Universe thought they had processed the full impact of Zilla Fatu's declaration, something happened that sent chills down everyone's spine and added an entirely new dimension to this already explosive situation. Through the arena's sound system, cutting through the stunned silence like a knife, came the unmistakable sound of Roman Reigns' sinister laughter. That laughter wasn't just audio, it was a statement. It echoed through every corner of the arena. bouncing off the walls and settling into the consciousness of every person present. But this wasn't the triumphant laughter of a champion or the jovial chuckle of someone enjoying a good joke. This was something far more unsettling, the calculated, knowing laughter of someone who had been orchestrating events from behind the scenes, someone who had been pulling strings while everyone else thought they were making their own decisions. The timing was absolutely perfect and undoubtedly intentional. Roman's laughter came at the exact moment when Aulio looked most vulnerable, when Solo Sikoa and JC Mateo appeared most uncertain, and when the entire WWE Universe was trying to process the implications of Zilla's war declaration. It was as if Roman was saying, "You think you understand what's happening here? You have no idea." What made this moment so psychologically powerful was the questions it immediately raised. Has Roman Reigns been orchestrating this entire conflict from the shadows? Was Aulio's betrayal at Night of Champions actually Roman's idea? Is the tribal chief using his family members as pawns in a larger game that none of them fully understand? The laughter suggested that while everyone else was reacting to events, Roman had been anticipating them, possibly even engineering them. The production value of this moment cannot be overstated. The sound engineers perfectly modulated Roman's laughter to make it feel omnipresent and otherworldly. It didn't sound like it was coming from speakers. It sounded like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere at once, creating an atmosphere that was both supernatural and deeply unsettling. The camera operators captured the reactions perfectly, showing how that laughter affected everyone differently. Aulio looked even more paranoid, Solo appeared confused and possibly betrayed, and even the audience seemed unsure whether to cheer or remain silent. But here's what makes this development so fascinating from a storytelling perspective. Roman's laughter introduced the possibility that this entire blood feud might be exactly what he wanted. Perhaps the tribal chief, in his infinite strategic wisdom, orchestrated Aulio's betrayal knowing it would provoke Zilla into action. Maybe he's been playing a game of chess while everyone else has been playing checkers, using family loyalty and honor as weapons in a larger war for control of the Bloodline legacy. This single moment transformed what appeared to be a straightforward revenge story into something far more complex and intriguing. Now, instead of just wondering whether Zilla can defeat Aulio, we're questioning whether both men are unknowingly dancing to Roman's tune and whether this entire conflict serves a purpose that only the tribal chief truly understands. While the WWE Universe was still processing Roman Reigns' ominous laughter and its implications, another layer of complexity emerged that threatens to turn this family blood feud into something far more dangerous and unpredictable. Intelligence sources within WWE have revealed that Paul Heyman's faction, featuring the unlikely but formidable alliance of Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker, has been closely monitoring this bloodline civil war, and they may be positioning themselves to exploit the chaos for their own strategic advantage. This development transforms what appeared to be a personal vendetta between family members into a potential three-way war that could reshape the entire power structure of WWE. Think about the strategic implications. While Zilla Fatu and Aulio are focused on destroying each other, while Solo Sikoa's faction is dealing with internal uncertainty, and while Roman Reigns may be orchestrating events from the shadows, Paul Heyman's group could be preparing to strike when all parties are at their most vulnerable. The genius of Paul Heyman's approach cannot be understated. As one of the greatest strategic minds in wrestling history, Heyman understands that the best time to attack an enemy is when they're fighting among themselves. He's watched the Bloodline dominate WWE for years, and now he's seeing the first real cracks in their armor. The question isn't whether he'll try to exploit this situation, it's how and when he'll make his move. Seth Rollins brings main event credibility and championship experience to this potential conflict. His history with Roman Reigns adds personal stakes that go beyond mere strategic advantage. Rollins has been in Roman's shadow for too long, and this family civil war might represent his best opportunity to finally step out of that shadow permanently. His technical wrestling ability and psychological warfare skills make him a perfect complement to Heyman's strategic mind. Bronson Reed adds the raw power element that could be crucial in any physical confrontation with the Bloodline. His devastating finishing moves and intimidating presence provide the kind of destructive force that could neutralize the Bloodline's traditional advantages in hardcore-style conflicts. Reed's relative newcomer status also means he has less emotional baggage and can approach this situation with cold, calculated aggression. Braun Breaker represents the future of WWE, and aligning him with this faction could establish him as a major player while the established stars are focused on their family drama. His amateur wrestling background and natural athleticism make him a wild card that the Bloodline might not be prepared to handle, especially if they're dealing with internal conflicts. The timing of this potential intervention is crucial. If Heyman's faction strikes too early, they risk uniting the Bloodline against a common enemy. If they wait too long, one side might emerge victorious and stronger than before. The sweet spot would be during or immediately after a major confrontation between Zilla and Aulio, when both men are physically and emotionally drained, when Solo's faction is in disarray, and when Roman's attention is focused on managing the family crisis. This isn't just about championships or storylines, this is about the future direction of WWE itself. What we're witnessing isn't just another wrestling feud or even a typical family rivalry. This is a full-scale Samoan Legacy War that threatens to tear apart one of the most powerful dynasties in sports entertainment history. To truly understand the magnitude of what's unfolding, you need to appreciate that this conflict goes far deeper than championship belts, television ratings, or even personal grudges. This is about the very soul of Samoan wrestling heritage and who has the right to carry that legacy forward. The Bloodline has represented more than just a wrestling faction. They've been the modern embodiment of Samoan warrior culture in WWE. For generations, Samoan wrestlers have brought a unique combination of athleticism, intensity, and cultural pride to professional wrestling. From the Wild Samoans to The Rock to Roman Reigns, this lineage has produced some of the most respected and feared competitors in wrestling history. Now, that entire legacy hangs in the balance as family members choose sides in a war that could destroy everything their ancestors built. Zilla Fatu isn't just fighting for personal revenge, he's fighting to preserve the honor and integrity of his family name. In Samoan culture, family honor isn't just important, it's everything. When Aulio chose to align himself with outsiders against his own blood, he didn't just betray Jacob Fatu. He violated centuries of cultural tradition that demand absolute loyalty to family above all else. Zilla's response isn't just personal, it's cultural, spiritual, and generational. The stakes couldn't be higher because this conflict will determine which vision of Samoan wrestling heritage survives. Will it be the traditional approach that Zilla represents, where family loyalty and honor are paramount? Or will it be Aulio's new model, where strategic alliances and personal advancement take precedence over blood ties? The outcome of this war will influence how future generations of Samoan wrestlers approach their careers and their relationships with family. What makes this legacy war so compelling is that both sides have legitimate claims to righteousness. Zilla can argue that he's defending traditional values and family honor against those who would corrupt them for personal gain. Aulio could counter that he's evolving the family legacy, refusing to be bound by outdated concepts that limit individual achievement. Both perspectives have merit, which makes this conflict far more complex than a simple good versus evil narrative. The ripple effects of this war extend far beyond the immediate participants. Every Samoan wrestler in WWE and beyond is watching this conflict, knowing that its outcome will influence their own careers and how they navigate the complex relationship between cultural heritage and professional ambition. Young Samoan wrestlers coming up through the developmental system are seeing their role models tear each other apart, and they're being forced to choose not just sides, but entire philosophies about what it means to be a Samoan warrior in modern professional wrestling. The psychological warfare has already begun to take its toll on everyone involved. Solo Sikoa, who positioned himself as a bridge between the old guard and the new generation, now finds himself caught in the middle of a conflict that threatens to make his leadership position untenable. His alliance with Aulio was supposed to strengthen his faction, but instead, it's brought the wrath of Zilla Fatu down upon them all. The stress is visible in his recent appearances. The confident swagger has been replaced by the tense alertness of someone who knows a storm is coming. Zilla Fatu, the original victim of Aulio's betrayal, remains a wild card in this equation. His championship was stolen, his trust was violated, and his family honor was damaged. But rather than rushing into battle, he's been ominously quiet, which might be the most terrifying development of all. In Samoan warrior culture, the most dangerous enemy is often the one who remains silent while planning their revenge. Jacob's silence suggests he's not just planning to reclaim his championship, he's planning something far more comprehensive and devastating. The cultural implications extend beyond WWE's roster to the broader Samoan community worldwide. This isn't just entertainment for many Samoan families, it's a reflection of their values and traditions being played out on the world's biggest stage. The way this conflict resolves will send a message about whether traditional Samoan values can survive in the modern world or whether they must be abandoned in favor of individual ambition and strategic pragmatism. Roman Reigns' mysterious involvement adds another layer of complexity to this legacy war. As the acknowledged tribal chief, his perspective on this conflict carries enormous weight. His sinister laughter suggests he may view this entire situation as a test, a way to determine who among his family members has the strength, cunning, and ruthlessness necessary to carry the Bloodline legacy into the future. Perhaps he's allowing this war to unfold because he believes only through conflict can the strongest emerge to lead the next generation. The timing of this legacy war, with SummerSlam approaching, creates additional pressure on all parties involved. SummerSlam has historically been the stage where the biggest feuds reach their climax, where careers are made or destroyed, and where legacies are cemented or shattered. The knowledge that this conflict will likely reach its peak at one of WWE's most prestigious events adds urgency to every decision, every alliance, and every strategic move being made by all parties involved. As SummerSlam looms on the horizon like an approaching storm, the implications of this Bloodline civil war have grown far beyond what anyone could have anticipated when Aulio first betrayed Zilla Fatu at Night of Champions. What started as a shocking moment of family betrayal has evolved into a multi-layered conflict that threatens to reshape not just the Bloodline dynasty, but the entire landscape of WWE itself. The pressure is building toward what could be the most consequential SummerSlam in recent memory. The strategic positioning for SummerSlam reveals just how high the stakes have become. This isn't just about settling a family dispute or determining who holds championship gold. This is about establishing a power structure that will define WWE for years to come. Every major faction and individual superstar is watching this conflict unfold, knowing that the outcome will create opportunities for some and eliminate possibilities for others. The winners of this war won't just claim victory, they'll inherit the responsibility of leading WWE into its next era. Consider the mathematical complexity of what's developing. Zilla Fatu's quest for revenge against Aulio, Solo Sikoa's faction trying to maintain their position while dealing with internal pressure, Roman Reigns potentially orchestrating events from behind the scenes, Paul Heyman's group preparing to exploit the chaos, and Zilla Fatu's ominous silence suggesting his own plans for retribution. Each of these elements represents a different path forward for WWE, and SummerSlam will likely determine which path the company takes. The psychological pressure on all participants is reaching a breaking point. Aulio, who initially appeared confident in his decision to betray his family, is now showing visible signs of stress as he realizes the full consequences of his actions. The cocky facade that defined his early appearances has crumbled under the weight of Zilla's threats and the growing isolation from his own family. His alliance with Solo Sikoa, which once seemed like a strategic masterstroke, now feels more like a desperate attempt to find protection from the storm he's unleashed. The production team at WWE understands the magnitude of what they're building toward. The mysterious video packages, the strategic camera work capturing genuine emotional reactions, and the careful pacing of revelations all suggest that creative forces behind the scenes recognize they're crafting something special. This isn't just another wrestling storyline, it's a generational conflict that touches on themes of family, honor, tradition, and the price of ambition. The international implications cannot be ignored either. The Bloodline's influence extends far beyond American audiences, particularly in Pacific Island communities where Samoan wrestling heritage carries deep cultural significance. The way this conflict resolves at SummerSlam will send ripples through wrestling communities worldwide, influencing how future generations of Samoan wrestlers approach their careers and their relationships with family and tradition. Perhaps most intriguingly, the approaching deadline of SummerSlam is forcing all parties to accelerate their plans and reveal their true intentions. The luxury of long-term strategic planning is disappearing, replaced by the urgent need to position for what promises to be a climactic confrontation that will determine the future of one of wrestling's most important dynasties. As we stand on the precipice of what could be the most explosive confrontation in modern WWE history, one question dominates every conversation among wrestling fans worldwide. Can Aulio survive the perfect storm of vengeance, family honor, and Samoan warrior justice that's about to crash down upon him? But that question, as compelling as it is, only scratches the surface of the deeper mysteries that this Bloodline civil war has revealed. The more I analyze this situation, the more I realize we might be asking the wrong questions entirely. Instead of wondering whether Aulio can survive Zilla's wrath, perhaps we should be asking whether any of them truly understand the game they're playing. Is Aulio just another pawn in Roman Reigns' master plan? Is Zilla's quest for revenge exactly what the tribal chief wanted to happen? Are Solo Sikoa and his faction being manipulated by forces they don't even recognize? The genius of this storyline lies in its layers of complexity that mirror real family dynamics. We've all experienced moments where family conflicts spiral beyond their original scope, where attempts to solve one problem create three new ones, where the desire for justice becomes indistinguishable from the thirst for revenge. This isn't just wrestling entertainment, it's a psychological study of how family loyalty, personal ambition, and cultural identity can collide in ways that destroy everything they were meant to protect. But here's what makes this situation truly fascinating. Every possible outcome creates new questions. If Zilla destroys Aulio, does that restore family honor or simply perpetuate a cycle of violence? If Aulio somehow survives and thrives, does that prove that traditional values are outdated, or does it demonstrate that betrayal can be a successful strategy? If Roman Reigns emerges as the puppet master behind everything, does that make him a strategic genius or a manipulative villain who's willing to sacrifice his own family for power? The approaching climax at SummerSlam isn't just about resolving this conflict, it's about establishing the moral framework that will guide WWE storytelling for years to come. The winners won't just claim championship gold, they'll define what values WWE celebrates and what behaviors it condemns. This is bigger than wrestling. It's about the stories we tell ourselves about family, loyalty, ambition, and the price of success. I need to hear from you because this story is too complex for any one perspective to fully capture. In the comments below, tell me, do you think Aulio made a strategic decision or a catastrophic mistake? Is Zilla's quest for revenge justified, or has he become the very thing he's fighting against? Most importantly, who do you think is really pulling the strings in this entire conflict? Smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this story is far from over. The revelations we've seen so far are just the beginning, and I'll be here to break down every twist, every betrayal, and every shocking moment as this Bloodline civil war reaches its inevitable, explosive conclusion. The question isn't just whether Aulio can survive, it's whether any of them will emerge from this war with their souls intact.